Welcome on back, everybody, to the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode 66. The AFL men's season has finished, but there's still plenty to cover every week. So we're going to be pumping out the episodes still continuing for the next month or so. Basic plan is, as has been for the last few weeks, we do 2 episodes each week. Episode 1 goes out on Monday, which is a look at everything AFLW, and then our second episode each week goes live Fridays, which has a look at the men's competition. This week, it's looking at trade week and free agency, as well as a little bonus. We're going to be looking at the top 10 players from season 2024 for every position. So we'll be starting with that in just a moment. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whether you are on YouTube or Spotify or both. Make sure you like it. Make sure you comment down below. There'll be plenty of opinions to be had on my top 10 players from each position. So make sure you jump down. Let me know where I went wrong. Let me know where you agree. And don't forget to subscribe as well. Every interaction helps, so let's jump into it. There's plenty of social medias as well, so go check them out without any further ado. We're going to jump into our top 10 key defenders of 2024. And there they are. We'll start at the bottom with the honourable mentions. I mean, you can read them all while I'm here, but we're going to go through the top 10 in a minute. Honourable mentions: Ben Miller, Josh Weddle, Jack Scrimshaw, Mark Keane and Josh Battle were all very good this season, just missed out on the top 10. Starting in 10th, Sam Taylor. I still believe he is the best key defender in the AFL. Missed a few games this year through injury, a couple different injuries. Still had a very good season. Really high spoil rate. His one-on-one loss percentage was slightly worse than most of those around him, but very high contested mark. Very good intercept player. Leads the top 10 players there. And all key defenders, I believe, in intercepts with 8.56 per game. When you consider he only has just over 12 disposals. About 75% of them come from intercepts. So he has a very good record in regards to that. Number 9, Callum Wilkie. Very good season from him this year. Camera's going crazy. Plenty of disposals. Good intercept player. Good contested marker. That one-on-one loss percentage is pretty outstanding. Across the AFL, 12.96%, so he's only just losing a little bit over one every 10 times he has a one-on-one, so that's a really good return from him. Jack Buckley, also from GWS, had another good season. He was ranked pretty highly last year, and he did it again this year. A really good output from him. Tom Barras, a good year from him, no doubt about it. He's slightly different than some of these other players. As you look, his one-on-one loss percentage is the worst of the top 10. At 34.38%. But high spoils, high intercepts, still a very good year from him. Darcy Moore copped a bit of flack this year. Surprisingly, still made it into the 6th. I think he was a lot better than people gave him credit for. He's probably the best spoiler in the AFL, 8.65. He tends to... he doesn't play one-on-one against the best offensive players too often, whereas a lot of these other players do. But he has a really good one-on-one loss percentage at only 15%, so he made it into 6. 5 was James Sicily. He's a bit different than most of the rest of this list, besides Jeremy McGovern, but he gets a lot more of the ball, 21.5 disposals per game, whereas most of the other key defenders are 12, 13, up to 17 if you're Wilkie. He plays a lot different. Like, he's a tall defender, but he's not always a key defender. He also goes forward, kicks goals at times, and plays a lot of different roles. But still, a very good season from him. Top 5. Jeremy McGovern, as I said, 20.6 disposals for him as well. Plenty of football. West Coast liked the ball in his hands, and yeah, there's good reason for that. He's a very good defender. He does play a very good role. Wiedering, outstanding as a one-on-one defender, as you can see. Just a 11.11 loss percentage on one-on-ones. Best of anyone in the AFL that had more than 15 or so one-on-ones this year. So outstanding output from him. Really good return. Arguably could be 1, 2, or 3 as key defender. I've gone with 3. I think the other 2 just pipped him, but an outstanding season nonetheless. Harris Andrews did it again this year. He's been outstanding for multiple years, and this year was no different. Crucial down back, major reason that they competed this year and ended up winning the premiership. Sam Collins, his best year in the AFL, in my opinion. He was really good this year. Across the board, the numbers look good, and deserved number 1 key defender. But the next 2 definitely were in the conversation for that top spot as well. We now jump into our medium-sized defenders. Top 10, honourable mentions first. Lachie Whitfield had like 30 possessions a game. Big bowl winner. Got knocked down a few times, which cost him a couple wins through the middle of the season, but a good year from him. Bailey Dale, Dan Houston, who obviously got suspended late in the season. We'll get onto him in a little bit later in this episode as well, because looking for a new home. Nick Vlauston and Blake Hardwick for Hawthorn. We'll move into top 10 now. Nick Blakey from Sydney, just over 20 touches a game, over 6 intercepts, gets a lot of metres gained, not just by foot but by run and carry. He does get the ball through the ground very well, and 5 spoils a game. He's in a way a bit more of a sort of tall defender than most of these, but still outstanding return from him. Jack Sinclair from St Kilda had a great season, running off half-back mostly. Did a little bit of midfield work, but mostly half-back. Over 27 touches a game, 457 metres gained, 18 pressure acts, really good season. Harry Sheasel just scraped into the medium defenders. He stayed as a running backman for at least the first half of the season. Second half of the season, played a lot more midfield time, but just snuck into the medium defenders. Really good season. Almost 30 touches per game. A lot of metres gained. Really good pressure player. Good ball user. He's very important when he's got the ball in his hand. He does make good stuff happen, so a really good season from him. Connor Rydun, I think he's possibly the most underrated player on this list, maybe even as a medium-sized defender in the AFL. He had an outstanding season. The numbers there you probably don't notice being that great, being that just 19 disposals, 240 metres gained, but his one-on-one win percentage, which isn't highlighted here, or his one-on-one loss percentage is really low, I should say. Best of all small to medium defenders in the competition. He rarely gets beaten. Had a fantastic season, and I think personally he definitely deserves to be in the top 10. More of a defender than pretty much the rest of this list, but whereas the rest are all more attacking options, he's definitely the more defender-orientated medium-sized defender. Max Holmes arguably could be a little higher. I've put him in 6th. I think that's fair. A really good season from him. 24 touches a game. Gets a lot of metres gained, as you can see, 560. Good intercepts, good ball user, really outstanding season from him. From start to finish, really important for Geelong's run this year. Sam Flanders from Gold Coast, big ball winner, as you can see, almost 31 touches a game. Really good season from him, no doubt about it. Gets a lot of the football. Certainly important for Gold Coast. Luke Ryan from Fremantle, I think, had a great season. He ended up as an All-Australian this year. I've got him in 4th as medium defenders when I've looked back at the season. 530 metres gained is huge. 5.8 intercepts is really good. 24.3 touches is also pretty good. In 3rd spot, I've got Nick Martin from Essendon. Big ball winner. Usually a good ball user. There's been times where he maybe bites off a bit more than he can chew, but still a very good ball user typically. Kicks a lot more goals than pretty much the rest of this list. He does go forward a bit. He plays on the wing a bit. He does a bit of everything. But overall, he's a medium defender, and I think he was the 3rd best. Dane Zorko changed roles this year. had to go back due to Coleman getting injured in round 1, and boy did Zorks make it work. Outstanding return from him. He's like, I don't know how old he is. I think he's 34 maybe. I could be completely wrong there, but for someone his age to change position and just like absolutely dominate that position was a fantastic effort. Over 26 touches per game, really important for them all year round. Great season. Tom Stewart, I've got in first, though, for medium defenders. Really good output from him this year. Over 21 touches, really good amount of intercepts, better than the rest of this list at 7.3. He plays a different sort of role than pretty much anybody else in the AFL, where he starts in the back line but then plays almost as a midfielder a lot of times. He's very important to Geelong's success, though. He's an outstanding player, and he showed it this year, and I think he was the best medium-sized defender. We'll jump now up to the other end of the field, and we'll have a look at the key forwards. First up, the honourable mentions: Mitch Georgiadis from Port Adelaide, Riley Thilthorpe from Adelaide, Nick Larkey from North Melbourne, Darcy Fogarty from Adelaide, and Jamara Ugle-Hagan from the Bulldogs are the honourable mentions. We'll now jump into the top 10 key forwards this year. Kyle Langford sits in 10th. At one point this year, looked like he might have been a bit higher. He had a really good good start to the year, sorry. Not quite as good in the second half of the year, but still really, really good overall. Almost averaging 2 goals a game, over 6 scoring involvements. He's the second best lead-up forward in the competition, probably going by marks on lead and goals from leads, just behind Jake Waterman. So really outstanding performance there. A good year from him, no doubt about it. Sam Darcy plays as a backup ruckman. He's really he's a young player. He's really tall. He plays as a backup ruckman, but when he's in the forward line, he does really well. 1.81 goals per game. He's one-on-one win percentage of 30% is really good. Over 2 contested marks per game, second best on that list. A really good season from him, and potentially looking at someone that could be moving into the top 3 next year. Harry Mackay from Carlton had a good year, started well, had bits and pieces that were good, not always fantastic, but he has a good one-on-one win percentage. He kicks over 2.3 goals per game, which is a really good return. A couple more games played, and he would have been right up there with his teammate in the Coleman. Good season. Josh Tracy probably took over as that key forward for Fremantle this year from Jaya Miss, who maybe dropped off a little bit this year, but Josh Tracy really took that spot really well. 2.25 goals a game, good return. Almost 6 score involvements, 1.4 contested marks, really good return. Joe Danaher went out on a high. Last season for him, he has retired, but he finishes up 6th best key forward this year. Over 2 goals a game, important all throughout. Backup ruckman, does a fair bit of ruck work. Plays a little bit different role as a key forward to most of these, outside of Jeremy Cameron, who also gets around the ground a bit, which is why both of their contested marks are pretty low compared to everybody else on this list. But yeah, a fantastic return from him all year round. Played his role perfectly and got the premiership. Ben King from the Gold Coast, 2.5 goals a game is an outstanding return. He doesn't maybe do enough outside of when he's kicking goals, certainly compared to some of these other forwards, as you can see. His score involvements is a lot lower than the rest of this list, so something there to work on, perhaps, being more involved in the game outside of just kicking goals. But 2.5 goals a game in modern day football is really good. It's in the top 5 or 6 in the competition. Really good return. Jake Waterman at one point was looking like he could win the Coleman. He missed a few games here and there, but started the season in fine form. His rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 were outstanding. Ended up averaging 2.65 goals a game. It was crucial for their season. Really good on the lead. Good contested marker. Was massive season from him. A really good breakout season from Jack Waterman. Number 3, Charlie Curnow, after a couple Colemans in a row. Looked like he was almost going to get it with about 5 or 6 weeks to go, but maybe just lacked a little bit there late, plus missed the last few games, including their final. 2.71 goals a game, though, is an outstanding return again from him. Over 2 contested marks a game. He's a very good player and showed that again this year. Maybe slightly down on what he performed at last year, but still a really good year. Jeremy Cameron, as I kind of mentioned slightly a few minutes ago, was that a little bit different than the rest of the key forwards. He plays almost like a small forward or a medium-sized forward, where he gets up the ground, he runs around, he does his better work on the loose ball than he does in the contested mark situation. As you can see, he only wins 12% of his one-on-ones, which is very low for a key forward. But what he does on the ground is fantastic. Just go back and watch their qualifying final against Port Adelaide and look at what he was doing with the ball on the ground. He's an incredible player. 7.54 score involvements is the best of all key forwards. Obviously, also gets more disposals than pretty much everybody else at 16.3, but still gets 2.67 goals a game. Fantastic return from him this year. Number 1, no doubt about this, not debatable, I don't think, in anyone's eyes. Number 1 key forward this year, the Coleman medalist, Jesse Hogan. What a season he had. Massive turnaround from what he's performed pretty much his whole career. Like, he's always shown snippets that he could be this good, but his mainly his contested work this year was fantastic. You look at his contested marks at 2.6 a game is a huge number. His one-on-one win percentage was outstanding all year. 50% of the time that you kick the ball to him one-on-one, he's going to win it, which is an insane return, and was probably the main reason that GWS was so good this year, in all honesty. Just the fact that you could kick it long to him and you know he's not going to get beat, and there's a fair chance he's going to win it. 50% is insane. Kicked over 3 goals a game, 6.6 score involvements per game. Just a fantastic return from him all year round. Without a doubt, the best key forward in the competition in 2024. We now jump into the medium-sized forwards. Start with the honourable mentions. Alex Neil-Bullen, who is changing clubs over to Adelaide. Zach Bailey, Liam Baker, Sam Swiatkowski, and Patrick Lipinski from Collingwood. Now the top 10 in 10th spot. Cam Rayner, underrated season in my eyes. Those numbers aren't quite correct, I don't think, because nobody's having that many score involvements, so just ignore that number. I don't know what that is, but just ignore that one. We'll look at the rest of them. I think the rest should be probably right. Over a goal a game for Rayner, 15 touches. Did go into the middle at times and did a good job there, but over 3 tackles, really good output. Brent Daniels, a little bit less emphasis from him on goals per game, just under 1 per game, but still 17 touches. Not that you can see here, but he does get a lot of score involvements. Tackles really well. Goal assist was really high, 1.54, the best on this list. Really outstanding effort. Pickett from Melbourne, once again, 1.71 goals a game. Really good return from him. Plays a bit of midfield time, certainly, especially late in the season. Started to play play like 10 or so centre bounces per game. Throughout the season, didn't quite average enough centre bounces to be considered a midfielder, but really outstanding season from him. He gets the ball. When he gets the ball, he makes stuff happen. Really good return. Tom Papley, another one, exact same amount of goals for the season. Slightly down maybe on what his best season is, but still a really good return from him. Brian Myers still averaged over a goal assist per game, which is slightly down on what he typically does. So I think this was probably his worst year of the last 3, in all honesty, but still a really good return. Gets a lot of the ball compared to most of the rest of this list. Ben Keys, I think, was fantastic this year. 1.5 goals per game. His second half of the year was outstanding. If he had played like that all year, maybe he would have been top 3 small forwards or small to medium forwards. Stringer, he's sometimes a key forward, sometimes a medium forward, sometimes a midfielder. He plays a lot of roles, but overall, he snuck into the medium forwards list. Ends up 4th on the list. 1.83 goals per game is a really good return from him. When he goes into the middle, he has a really good centre clearance rate as well compared to pretty much anyone else in the AFL. It'll be interesting to see where he lands after the trade period, but fantastic return really from him. Did what everything that Essendon could have expected from him. I don't think they could have expected much more, in all honesty. Tyson Stengel, really good year from him. 1.84 goals a game. When he's in the game, he's always making stuff happen. Really good return from him. Toby Green came into the year as, without a doubt, the best medium-sized forward in the competition. Didn't quite live up to that this year. Had a bit of a down year, but when your down year is still averaging 1.83 goals a game, as well as 1.13 goal assists a game, really good tackle count, really good score involvement count. He had a really good year. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't as good as last year, which was an insanely good year, but still a very good year, and I've got him in second. And then number 1, in my opinion, there's not much argument here either. Dylan Moore, fantastic year. Slightly down on goals on some of them at just 1.44, but wins a lot of the football, gets a lot of goal assists. He certainly, when their season first started turning around, even when they were struggling a little bit, he was the key player, without a doubt, in my mind. Towards the end of the year, from about halfway onwards, Jai Newcomb probably took over the role as their most important. But in my opinion, that start of the year, he was their most important. He was playing so well and keeping them in games and getting them over the line in some of them. So a fantastic season from him, and in my opinion, deserved number 1 spot on the medium forwards list for 2024. Next up, we've got Ruckman. Honourable mentions go to Tom De Koning, Luke Jackson, Riley O'Brien, Jared Witts and Mark Pittenay. Now we jump into the top 10. In 10th, we have Lloyd Meek from Hawthorn. Pretty solid hit-out percentage. Decent, one of the better hit-out to advantage percentages in the competition. Really solid score involvement numbers. At his best, is as good as anybody on this list, in all honesty. He's probably not quite as consistent as some of the others at the moment, but still really good numbers across the board. Toby Nankervis, he missed the first game or two. He came into the team, did what he always does. Really good ruck work, gets around the ground well, doesn't really affect the scoreboard as much as some of the others, at only 0.1 of a goal per game, so 2 goals for this season. Doesn't affect the scoreboard in score involvements as well as the others, which is his one downside, but at the same time he's playing at Richmond, who finished wooden spoon and really struggled to score, so you can't just put that all on him. Tim English from the Bulldogs had a great season. Lower hit-out percentage than pretty much the rest of this list, but still a pretty good hit-out to advantage percentage. Kicks goals, affects the scoreboard really well at 5.22 score involvements per game. The Big O, in my opinion, best bloke in the AFL this year, award goes to him. 25 games, missed one, which was the grand final and the premiership win, but a fantastic season from him. Doesn't win quite as much of the ball as most of the rest in this list, but his hit-outs are pretty good. He's good at kicking goals. He's good at getting around the ground. I think he had a really good season. Probably the 3 or so below him maybe would have jumped him if they had have played the full season. Tim English only missed 1 game, but Nankervis and Lloyd Meek both missed Nankervis missed 2, Meek missed 4? 3 or 4. So good season though nonetheless. Kieran Briggs was outstanding, gets a lot of clearances, good hit out percentage, really good numbers across the board. Brodie Grundy from Sydney had a great return to form this year after last year being a backup ruckman at Melbourne and maybe not getting as much of an opportunity. Did return to his best. I don't think he's anywhere near the level of those top few this year, but I think he did his role, and that's probably where he's at. 18 touches a game, 5 score involvements a game. A good return, no doubt about it. Darcy Cameron, I think, was a little bit underrated by a lot of people. Almost half a goal a game. Really good numbers across the board. His intercept marking is one of the better numbers for all ruckman. Did his role without a doubt across the year. Rowan Marshall, unlucky not to be number 2 ruckman in all honesty. 20.8 touches per game is the best of all the ruckmen. His hit-out percentage isn't great, in all honesty, at just 36.9%, which, I mean, it's not the be-all and end-all, but that's probably the point of his game that just lowers him behind the 2 above him. But does kick a lot of goals, 0.65 a game, 4.74 score involvements. A really good return from him this year. Tristan Zeri from Kangaroos, almost 18 touches, gets a lot of clearances, kicks enough goals, 1 goal every 3 games or so. 43% hit out, 25% to advantage. Pretty good numbers from him, but once again, for the last 5-6 years, it's been pretty consistent. Max Gawn, the best ruckman in the competition, and I don't think this year was any different. 19 disposals, really good numbers as a ruckman, over half a goal a game. 5.24 score involvements per game, led the ruckman in that area too. There's no doubt about it. He's the best ruckman in the competition, and he held on to it again this year. Will he be able to hold on to it again next year? Maybe not. There's a lot of young talent coming through, and he is heading towards the twilight. But 7-time All-Australian now, I think, 6 or 7. He's had an incredible career, and this year was just another one of those. Interestingly enough, those top 4 ruckmen, none of them played finals this year. So what that says, I don't know. But an interesting thing to note anyway. Next up, we got the midfielders. This is like the most stacked list. You could do the next 25 and 35 midfielders and still be coming up with really good players this season. Honourable mentions first, Chad Warner, really good season from him. Just missed the top 10. Adam Treloar, All-Australian this year. All honesty, could be argued that he should be in the top 10. He had a good year, there's no doubt about it. John Newcombe was great, certainly in the second half of the year. I think his start to the year was a little slow, but he really got going. Zach Butters was good, and Luke Davies-Unaki had a really good season. Turns it over a bit too many times, in my opinion, which is probably what cost him getting into the top 10. We'll jump into the top 10 now. Matt Rowell in 10th. A little bit different than most of these players. A little bit less ball-winning ability, 23.4 per game. But really high contested ball winner, 14 per game. Really big clearance getter, 7.09. And a really big tackler, leading the AFL with 8 per game. So bit more of a defensive midfielder than most of the rest of this list, but saying that, he still gets a lot of clearances. He still gets a lot of contested football. Tom Green, a fantastic season from him as well. Maybe lacks a little bit on the goal-kicking front, but contested football, winning the football, he gets a lot of it, over 30 touches per game. Zach Merritt, at one point of this season, probably around about round 7, 8, 9 or so, he was looking like he might be in the top 4 or 5 midfielders this year. Didn't quite sustain it, I don't think. I think 8th is about right, in all honesty. 28 touches per game. Almost 10 contested possessions a game. Doesn't quite hurt the scoreboard as much as some others. Still gets over 0.6 of a goal a game and almost 5 tackles per game. So still good numbers, but maybe not quite as damaging as some of the others. Errol Gordon is the only outside mid on this list, and in all honesty, the only outside mid that goes even close to this list this year. Wingman this year, there just weren't that many that played a great role that did that much, but he did. 27 touches a game. He had a few quiet games, but when he's on, he is really, really good, and there's no doubt about it. He deserves a spot on this list. He's by far the best wingman in the game. Caleb Sarong started the season absolutely insane form. Continued it throughout most of the year, but his first 3 weeks were best in the competition, maybe behind Isaac Heaney, who also started really well. So he finished 6th. All honesty, could be argued that he's in the top 5, maybe even top 4, but I've got him in 6th. Lachie Neale, 5th spot this year. Insane season from him. Won the Brownlow last year. I think he was better this year than last year, in my opinion. Really good season. 29.3 touches per game, almost 14 contested, almost 8 clearances, half a goal a game, 3.3 tackles a game, and in all honesty was a major reason they won the premiership. There's no doubt about it. He is their best midfielder, and he showed that this year, week in, week out. Number 4, Nick Dacos. Over 30 disposals per game, almost 14 contested. Had to play a slightly different role this year than, or from about through the middle part of the season at least, when they had a few injuries. He had to go in there and start winning a few more clearances and win a bit more contested football. And his numbers show that. Ends up pretty high number of contested football. At one point he was 2nd in the competition. I think he ended up 3rd or 4th in total contested possessions. Clearances, he was just behind Paddy Cripps. I know his average is slightly behind Lachie Neale, but throughout the home and away season was above him. Almost a goal a game. He had a fantastic season, no doubt about it. Paddy Cripps, highest ever Brownlow count return. Fantastic year from him. I have him number 3. I get why he won the Brownlow. I had him winning the Brownlow. Doesn't mean I think he was the best midfielder this year. But based on the fact that around him there's not that many as many good midfielders as Sydney and as the Bulldogs have, certainly this year. So that's why he got the votes. Still 3rd best midfielder in my opinion. Really good output, high disposal count, high contested football, number 1 contested footballer. Over 8 clearances a game, hits the scoreboard, absolute leader of that football club, and an insane season from him without a doubt. They wouldn't have played finals if he wasn't there. Isaac Heaney, number 2, started the season clear number 1 for the first 5-6 weeks. Looked like he wouldn't get beaten for that number 1 spot. Had a few quiet weeks, including the grand final, but still outstanding numbers from him. Over 1.4 goals a game. Good clearance winner. Gets over 25 touches a game. Really outstanding season from him. But in my opinion, same as last year. Number 1 midfielder in the game, Marcus Bontempelli. His numbers are insane. His ability to affect games is second to none at the moment in the AFL, in my opinion. Over 6 clearances a game. 1.33 goals a game, over 5 tackles, over 13.5 contested possessions, over 25.5 disposals per game. He affects games, he wins games, there's no doubt about it for the Bulldogs. He is, in my opinion, the best midfielder, and also, spoiler alert, but he is the best player in the game in my eyes. So that's all the positions that we're looking at today, top 10s for all of them. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of those lists. Anyone that I miss, anyone that I put in there that you wouldn't have put in there, let me know in the comments. I'm interested in all of your opinions. We will be doing my top 50 AFL players of 2024 coming up in episode 68 of the podcast. So that's this time next week that will be coming out. So stick around, check that out next week. Don't forget to be subscribed. Hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube so you don't miss it. And that's everything on that. We're going to jump now into all of the free agency, all the trading news that we have so far. Free agency is getting close to the end. Meanwhile, trade season is about halfway. We've still got plenty of time left in trade week. I believe there's still about a week left. Does it finish next Friday? Maybe. Anyway, I don't know when it finishes, but it finishes sometime next week. So there's been a little bit of action, still plenty more to come. So we'll start with free agency first. These are the moves in free agency so far. There's still probably a couple more to come, but so far this is all the ones that have gone through. So Jack Graham has joined West Coast. Richmond will be picking up, at the moment, pick 42 as compensation. Isaac Cumming will be going to Adelaide. GWS will get pick 21 at the moment for that. Nick Haynes will be joining Carlton. No compensation for GWS there. Where are we? Tom Campbell, he's joining Melbourne. No compensation for St Kilda. The next two are the big two so far, really. Harry Perryman going to Collingwood. GWS get pick 16. A lot of people saying Collingwood paid overs for Perryman, which maybe they did, but at the same time, I think they really wanted him. They went and got him. They have a belief that he's going to be crucial for their success next year. Josh Battle, he's gone to Hawthorn. Big get for Hawthorn there. St Kilda pick up and round 1, pick 8 for that. So massive pick up for both. Win-win for both teams, in all honesty. Hawthorn get Josh Battle and St Kilda get a really good pick. So that could be huge for St Kilda. And the final one that's gone through is Elliot Himmelberg has joined Gold Coast. No compensation, going the way of Adelaide Crows. So that's all the free agency moves so far. As you can see, GWS have lost 3 players incoming. Haynes, Perryman. St Kilda have lost a couple in Battle and Campbell. And the players are kind of gone all over the place. But some big names. The Jack Graham one only went through today, I believe. So yesterday at time of watching this. But at time of recording, it's only just kind of gone through in the last couple hours. Last couple of days, sorry. Don't know where I got hours from. There hasn't really been much else happening over the last couple of days, but it should start heating up early next week, certainly in the trades side of things. We'll look at the trades now. There's only been 2. First one is Jack Darling has gone to North Melbourne, and West Coast will get the 4th round pick, which at the moment is pick 67. So, I mean, Darling's over 30 years old. He doesn't have that much left in him. So, pick 67 is probably about right, in all honesty. I'm not 100% sure why he wants to go to North Melbourne. But, yeah, it could be a good pickup for them. I mean, they lack forward targets down there, so it certainly won't hurt North Melbourne. Jumping across to the other trade, Alex Neil-Bullen is going the way of the Crows. Melbourne get the 2nd round pick, which is pick 28. Probably, once again, about fair, I would say. Good pickup for Adelaide, no doubt about it. He's one of the better players in the role he plays. He plays a lot of variety of roles, but he can play on the wing. He can go into the midfield. He can tag if you need it. He can also play medium-sized forward. So he has plenty of options for Adelaide. Could be a really good get for them. Pick 28 for Melbourne. Who knows what the draft is going to end up being like, and by pick 28 there might not be a whole lot left. But it is the sort of pick number that you can get a bargain if you pick correctly and get a little bit lucky. These are the trades that potentially will still be going through. There's maybe more that I've missed. But this is a little list of players that are still potentially going to be moving over the next week or so. Stringer could end up at GWS. He could stay at Essendon. Who knows? There might be another team that puts their hat in the ring over the next few days. But Stringer potentially going GWS way, but also I'd say 50-50 at the moment, whether he's GWS or Essendon next year. James Peatling, I would say, is very likely going to be at Adelaide. Big get for Adelaide, in all honesty. I think he is one of the more underrated players in the competition. I think he has a lot of upside, so that will be a big pickup if the Crows get him. Lukosius to Port Adelaide. Be interesting to see what sort of role they have in mind for him. Because, yeah, he's an interesting player that I think at his best played in the right spot. It can be really, really damaging player, but unfortunately He hasn't been able to do that at Gold Coast, but maybe at Port Adelaide, where they have a few more targets in that forward line, it might free him up to have that success. Joe Richards from Collingwood, likely to end up at Port Adelaide, is requested to go there. I would say he will end up there, and it'll be interesting to see what that trade looks like. Could well be Dan Houston going back the way of Collingwood. At the moment, he's linked to Collingwood and Carlton. I'm pretty sure there's plenty of other teams that, if they have the opportunity, will go for him. He's probably the biggest name / best opportunity, or best trade opportunity on the table at the moment. So he would be huge for either Collingwood or Carlton. Jack McRae likely to end up at St Kilda. I can't see him staying at the Bulldogs. I think that trade will go through. John Noble's requested to go Gold Coast. I think that's almost certainly going to happen as well. Luke Parker is likely to end up at North Melbourne at the moment. Sydney rejected North Melbourne's first offer, but I think would still likely see him go there. So a couple of senior players heading the way of the Kangaroos. Shai Bolton will be a massive get for Fremantle. Is that a missing link for them? Maybe. It could be crucial for them. Their team was not far off finals. They were almost pushing for top 4 with 4 weeks to go before they kind of capitulated a little bit. So they don't need much to take them over that line. They have a really good midfield. They have probably the best opportunity for Shai Bolton. In all honesty, it will be a great add to their team, I think. Bailey Smith likely to end up at Geelong, although could go through the draft. Apparently, I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but he's requested to go to Geelong, so that would be huge for them, having him not played at all this year. If they can get a fit Bailey Smith, that would be massive. Barras is almost certainly going to Hawthorn. He's requested to go there. He will be very good for them as well, no doubt about it. Adds a little bit more experience to their backline. Liam Baker, West Coast, in all honesty, is going there, as far as we can tell. Be a good get for them, no doubt. They're a team that kind of wants to be pushing towards going further up the ladder next year, and they need to take that step. They're going to get the opportunity. They've got a few good ins this year. Baker likely to join him. They've already got Jack Graham, so we'll see how that plays out for them. And Daniel Rioli's going up to the Gold Coast, not officially, but in all likelihood is going to be ending up on the Gold Coast, which will be a good get for them as long as they don't overpay for him. So that's everything AFL Trade Week, Week 1. Next week, I don't know when Trade Week finishes. I should probably work it out. But I'll record the podcast as soon as Trade Week is done, so it will be going live then either straight within a few hours of Trade Week finishing next week. As I said, we'll be doing the AFL Top 50. We'll be comparing it to my AFL Top 50 at the start of the season. See where I went right, see where I went terribly wrong. There's a few of them, let me tell you. But before that, episode 67 will be going live Monday morning, which will be a look at all things AFLW Week 8. So a review of all round 7 games, round 7 or 8, whatever week we're up to, you know where we're at, and also a preview of the following weekend's action. There's not long left in the AFLW season. Things are heating up, so check that out. Episode 67 will be live Monday morning, Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on everything I've spoken about today, or any of it, or anything AFL, anything you want to see. Thanks for watching. Catch us on the next one.